Hey, welcome back to Blanchy Talks Watches. For review today, we have a Vostok Amphibia. This particular model is the 110750 model. The 110 or the 110 refers to the case shape. 750 refers to the dial, which, as you can clearly see, is a red, white and pink in a crosshatch fashion, which is also known as a radio room dial. This particular watch has been modified by myself. I have added this red bezel to complement the dial. The strap has been changed to a cheapestnatostraps.com scuba grey strap, 22mm lug width, and the case has been taken from a polished, which you can see on the side, to a satin brushed finish that I did myself. You can see the brush is done in a circular fashion around the outside of the case. It's a uniform pattern in the brush, which I think is quite nice. It was my first attempt at brushing a watch. It could do with a bit of a touch up now. It's been done for a couple of years, but if anyone's interested, let me know in the comments and I'll do a video on how to brush a polished watch. Personally, I much prefer a brushed finish than a glossy finish. I mean, it does depend on the watch, but my preference does tend to go for the brushed. It's much less likely to show fingerprints than a polished effect would. So as you can see here, no mark at all, whereas on the polished crown, see, it's left a fingerprint there. Okay, for the specs on this watch, the diameter is, so it's kind of hard to measure on this one due to the crown guards, but it is approximately 41mm across. As I've said, the strap width is 22mm, and the lug to lug then is 48mm. Interesting profile to this watch. The caseback does protrude a good bit, and then the domed crystal protrudes again. I like the slope on this aftermarket bezel, which comes out to meet the slope of the curved crystal. The crystal, as with almost all Vostoks, is acrylic. You can kind of see as I move the light across it there, I do have some scratches and grazes on this crystal. Disadvantage of using acrylic crystal is it can scratch quite easily. If you knock it off a door frame or something, you probably will get a couple of scratches in it. But one massive advantage is you're less likely to shatter it or chip it, and these scratches and grazes are easily fixed with polywatch, or in some cases toothpaste. I will do a video in the future on how to remove scratches in acrylic crystals. I have a few that need to be done, so I might do them in a job lot together on video. One major advantage of the acrylic crystal, particularly in this setup, is due to the shape of it and the heavy dome. It adds to the water resistance by, as the pressure increases around it, it forces it down into the case, causing it to spread out and put more tension between the acrylic crystal and the case. This is a dive watch. As you can see on the dial there, it's rated to 200 meters. But these watches have been heavily tested by owners and other YouTube channels, and they can withstand significantly more than 200 meters. And there was one recent video, and I can't remember exactly how far it went, but it was far beyond 200 meters. Okay, so we will have a look at the Caseback now. So this is another interesting system. So what they have is, you have your inner plate here, and then you have a retaining screw that goes around the outside. So this is another very clever innovation to increase water resistance. Similar to the crystal, as the pressure increases around the watch, the seal becomes tighter and tighter. Anyone I've seen who's had water ingress in a Vostok has either forgot to screw down the crown correctly, which of course is a screw down crown, as a lot of proper dive watches, or the Caseback screw isn't on properly. You've got the tab top and bottom on the Caseback itself to ensure you have it in the right orientation. There is an engraving on the Caseback then, so that's a nice shot of it there, just your standard Amphibia Caseback. And there's all sorts of different mod parts you can get for this. I just haven't bothered changing the Caseback. Another quirky little thing on Vostoks is, this catches a lot of new watch buyers out, is when you unscrew the crown, so you unscrew it, and what's this? Have I broken my brand new watch? Now this is a protection mechanism in Vostoks that is very unique. Some people don't like it, but it speaks to the heritage of the watch. So the idea behind this is, there's almost like a disconnect between the crown and the stem inside the movement. So if this did happen to be unscrewed and you caught it on something and snapped off the crown, you're not going to damage the movement. Kind of speaks to the rugged nature of these watches. So once you pull it out to the first time setting position, you can still see it's even more so. So you can set the time and just look at the amount of play in that. This was my first modern Vostok mod. Did it a few years ago to see how I found it, and it's not my last. If you watch the previous videos, you'll see I had a build for the channel a few weeks ago, which is very popular, and I have a few more builds planned, both Vostok and non-Vostok, but I think Vostoks have a special place in my collection. I have a good few of them, different types, but this radio room is definitely a conversation piece. So the reasoning behind the markings on the dial and the name radio room is it's based on the design of a ship's clock. So as far as I'm aware, this came about after the Titanic, which, as many of you will know, sunk due to hitting an iceberg, and the story goes that neighbouring vessels could see the distress flares going up for the Titanic, but they thought it was just a fireworks show, so they didn't go to help, which led to a massive amount of deaths that happened. So this style of clock was developed to go in boats afterwards. So what the markings mean is the red and pink sections of the dial are to be kept free for distress signals while you're out at sea. So that's 3 minutes at the start of each 15-minute interval is to be kept clear of radio traffic while at sea. This is to allow for emergency distress calls to get through efficiently, and hopefully to stop any major catastrophes, or at least alleviate the number of deaths caused by catastrophes such as the Titanic. So very interesting little piece, and obviously having collected Vostoks for so long, you'd forget that people don't know it, but only last night in one of my watch chat groups the topic came up and people didn't realise, so I thought it'd be an interesting one to review this week and just get it out there. And yeah, it's a quirky little fact for a quirky little watch. I think Vostoks are pretty cool, and the Soviet connection is a big seller, but I think the radio room in particular doesn't get enough love. It's something you don't see often. Okay, so we'll see how this wears on the wrist. So for reference, my wrist is 7¼ inches. And again, this is the scuba strap from cheapestnativestraps.com that I unboxed there last week. I have to say, this strap I've been wearing for a week now, and it is extremely comfortable. I decided to throw it onto this watch because it is very warm here the past week or two we've been in a heat wave, so I thought a rubber strap was a good choice. So there we go. It's quite a flat profile when you look at it top down. It does fit nicely on my wrist. As I mentioned, the side profile is slightly unusual. It does sit a bit proud. Not too noticeable when you're wearing it on the wrist, but something to keep in mind is if you do change to a glass caseback or display caseback, this issue is even more prominent with those being slightly taller. Again, it is possible to get flatter casebacks, but they would be for manual wind watches. I think some of the vintage Amphibias that had the manual winds, you can use them on the modern cases. But to be honest, I don't find it an issue. Some people with smaller wrists will. There are smaller Vostoks if that is an issue for you. But I think this combination on the scuba strap fits quite well. It's very comfortable on the wrist. Perfect holiday watch or for summer wear out in the sun. Nice and colourful, but not gaudy. So it's, yeah, I really do like this one. As I said, it's been in my collection for a good few years now. So you can see the little nicks and imperfections, but it is a tool watch. So I don't mind doing the gardening and things in this. I'm not going to baby this. I did at first with the worry about scratching your crystal, but once you've done it a couple of times and seen how easy it is to polish back out, I'm not fussed at all. As far as loom goes with these, it actually looked surprisingly well when I initially turned it off, but kind of what you see now is what you get. It's nothing to write home about. It's probably not going to last you the night. It might if you're very lucky. I mean, it's improved on the vintage Vostoks, which are notoriously bad, but, you know, if you want proper loom, you're not going to be picking a Vostok. There is a few sellers of aftermarket dials that do them with super loom. Or there's another guy on eBay, I can't think of his name right now, who relooms original Vostok dials and hands. And they are very cool. I'll have to pick one up for a future project because an original, especially vintage dial with amazing loom is very cool. Now, as I've said in previous videos, being a dive watch, I would expect the loom to be better. But for the price of this, you can't complain at all. The base watch cost just under $70, which is incredible value for a 200-meter dive watch with an in-house automatic movement. For $70, that's just incredible. I know Vostoks can be a bit Marmite, love them or hate them, but I'm definitely in the love them camp, and I think every collection needs at least one. And being honest, I think every collection needs a few Vostoks. They really let you scratch that dive itch. If you're looking to start modding watches, I firmly believe this is the way to go. I had this conversation on one of the watch modding Facebook groups the other day, and one big complaint is the bezels and how difficult they can be, and I was adamant that they are simple to put on. I don't have issues with putting them on, but that said, I forgot when I put this one on, I put in a mangled bezel spring and it is very difficult to turn, so I have to eat my words, and I will let the guys know on the Facebook group that to be honest, I forgot I couldn't turn this bezel. That being said, it's only a matter of popping the bezel off and either retensioning the spring or putting a new spring. I could do it, I'm just lazy. I don't know why I've never really used this watch for timing. It could be to do with the fact you have the timing markers already on the dial, so I can kind of at a glance time 15-minute intervals ish. It's kind of all I really need if I'm doing a bit of cooking or whatever. But yeah, I'd highly recommend Vostoks for getting into modding. Simple, cheap, easy to work on, and they're quite rugged. They can take a beating. You're able to drop the movement on the floor and pick it up and it'll still work. I wouldn't recommend doing it, but I've done it myself and still got the accuracy to well less than a minute a day off. So overall, yeah, very impressive little watches. So all in this mod is amazing value for money. As I said, the base watch was less than $70. I can't exactly remember how much the bezel cost me, but I had a quick look on eBay there and it's looking like it's about $30. Sounds a bit dearer than I spent, but let's call it $30. And this strap cost me, I think it was $6 off cheapest nail strap. So all in, for a modified automatic watch, 200 meters water resistance, you're looking at less than $110. That's incredible value. And I know a lot of the modders will say, look, go Seiko, but you're looking double the price. Sure, some people have trouble with the bezels, but my advice would be if you stick to the genuine bezels, they're far easier to put on than the aftermarket ones, and you'll have no issues, or at least minimal issues with it. To adjust the tension on the bezel on these, you just have to adjust the spring that's seated underneath the bezel. It's not that difficult if you've done it a few times. If anyone's interested, I could put up a video in the future of the process of changing a bezel and adjusting the tension. So as I said before, Vostoks are very much love-hate, but I think for a brand that's been true to what it does since the 1940s, remaining relatively unchanged. Yes, it's old technology, but yes, it works. If it's not broke, why fix it? So let me know in the comments what you think. Are you in the love or are you in the hate camp when it comes to Vostok watches? If you're looking at getting into modding, again, I'd absolutely recommend looking at Vostoks. If you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. I've been modifying Vostoks for a number of years, so I do know quite a bit about it and where to source parts from. And I'm absolutely open to doing videos on the different processes in modding, but I just need to know what people want to see before I make them. So yeah, thanks so much for watching the video. Any engagement massively helps me, so if you like the video, please drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you again. Cheers.